How do these things start? Charlie.
How do these things start?
Who are you?
Tell me your name. What's your name?
Wow, you're really you're a great fan.
I'm on my Oprah shit, you know?
You really are.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to come and host? Just be the host. I'm Chester. You're EJ.
I am EJ.
We've known each other now for
Like 4 years?
4 years?
Maybe a little over 4 years?
Yeah, a little over 4 years. I still mourn our. Really?
I know. I'm sorry. Shit, man, he's got a jackhammer.
I know. It's all good. There should be a camera covering what's happening over there. So we're gonna eat some wings later, and Marion's heating up the sauce. It's gonna be really good. Maybe you'll see some wings, whoever you are. Yeah, like 4 years. I still mourn my little radio show interview I wanted to do with you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The day that the day COVID hit. It was that Friday, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
That the world shut down.
That's right.
Yeah. So anytime we talk, I feel like I have to bring that up. It's just like.
Which is funny because I feel like we've been in dialogue, we've had conversation, I feel like so much since then that we probably already covered the ground.
I think we made up for it, but I'm excited that this is the first recorded conversation that we're having. I had a couple people ask like, "Oh, was the talk that you had EJ recorded from Cries Happily?" And I said no, which is okay. I think it's nice when some things just happen.
You know what?
If you're there, you're there. If you're not,
I don't know if I told you this, but I kind of panicked after. Like I was like kicking myself for like days after that, and I was like, "Oh man!" Like it was so like.
What?
I was like, "I'll just play it cool." Yeah, because I just thought, it had been. I've never moderated anything before, but I felt like I knew you and I knew the work enough. And you sent me some materials before we did the talk, before the screening. I did my research, I wrote notes and questions, and I think I held maybe this was how I thought of it after the fact. I think I held too closely to my notes and the cards and like wanting to hit certain points that it felt a little rigid. And then like during the night, I think I was stressing myself out with like making sure I was like asking all the right questions and making sure things were flowing rather than just letting it happen more naturally. And so for days after, I was like,
oh no.
Yeah. I cried unhappily.
That's unfortunate. Well, I was like on top, I'll keep it real. On top of the moon with how the night went, but there's always like, I don't know, that like postpartum depression after you work on something for a long time and finish it and share it. Similar to what we were talking about earlier, it's just like the what's next moment where there's so much stress and you kind of just have to like, I don't know, lock into a production mindset. It's almost like a survival mindset. It's just like, I gotta get this done, got a deadline, and you just kind of sprint to the finish and then you get to the finish and it's like, what just happened? There's like an emptiness, but I'm curious, how does, no, you're good.
How long were you working on it? Like, what was that window?
So it shifted. Like, we didn't really know exactly what we were doing throughout the process. We probably spoke about this at the event. I feel like Marion just encouraged me and us to think about it like a little kid that was just playing around and just like listen to what the kid wants to do. If the kid wants to play soccer, but don't force it in any direction. And it kind of just went in a lot of different, and it being like Cries Happily being this project that can exist in a number of different forms, and it's still kind of shifting, but yeah, it's starting as a sweatshirt. It's starting as just finding the right color, looking through all the different types of sweatshirts, the different types of strings that they have, the different types of hoods, all the cuts. There's like so much research and honestly only came to life because Marion was down to sit on Zoom with me and baby me as I was getting frustrated because like there wasn't the perfect option. But we started looking at sweatshirts in like October, and that event was in March.
I don't know.
Well, I moved April 15th, so it was probably
Before then.
it was probably March or early April. But
Was it late Feb? Or am I tripping? No.
I think March.
You might.
I think March. I'm gonna say mid-March.
Okay.
So I guess that's like 5-ish months. But the films we shot late December, and yeah, we were editing them the early part of the year, and then like, oh, let's do something. Let's share the films. Let's bring people together. Let's like try to keep thinking about what this thing is. So the event title was what is Prize Happily? I think we were also like, oh, what is this thing? Let's like create an event and invite some people and like kind of force ourselves to think about what we made and start like a dialogue with people.
So the ideas that you had then about what Price Happily is, has that shifted or changed in the few short months since then? Has it evolved further?
It's changed so much. And there's been so many changes just like behind the scenes. Like, I don't know, Marion and I will have like a call and be like, oh, this is what it is. And like, be like locked in and and then be like, oh, maybe it's not that, maybe it's something else. And I think throughout the process, the simplest options have always been the best. So it's just like, oh, it just, like at the moment right now, it is what exists. And right now what exists is a film with interviews, a sweatshirt, and I don't have a hat.
Oh, the white hats with the blue.
And a white hat. So right now it's 2 pieces of clothing and a film. And we're working on, just about done with like a new website that just is a sweatshirt, a hat, and a film. It's like very simple, very direct, and it feels really good to, again, not get too ahead of ourselves, not create too much work. We knew that it just feels like really fertile ground where we can plant a lot of things, but also like going back to what we were talking about before, of just like getting overwhelmed and putting too much on the plate. It's just like, let's not do that. Let's have fun. Let's take baby steps. So even like with this, I know I want to like do everything perfect and make everything really massive. It's just like, let's just like start with what we have. I actually have this, look at my phone, because this Arthur Ashe quote that has been really helpful for me the last couple of months. That's the tennis player. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, and like it's one of my phone backgrounds, and like that has been very helpful.
One more time, start where you are.
Yeah.
Do what you can.
Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
Yeah.
And just really not overcomplicating, not investing a ton, because it's so easy to like spend an endless amount of money and this amount of time and like make something so much bigger than it needs to be, where it's not possible to execute, or you overcomplicate, or you take the fun out of it. So I think a lot of Prize Happily has also just been like making sure it's still fun and feeling good. Like making the films was really fun, editing was really fun, Charlie's really fun, this dog we just walked through. And if it starts to get like too stressful or we're overthinking, we're like, okay, we're doing it wrong. So I think having some like philosophy around what the project should feel like that's been one of the consistent things. Yeah. The actual work has changed, but like I think our ethos of like wanting it to feel good, wanting it to be collaborative, wanting it to like be able to kind of tell us what it wants to be, those have been kind of consistent.
Do you have like safeguards set up or things that like if you were to get to a point where things start to feel overwhelming, you can like check in with everyone, or is that just more of a automatic response, something that you feel internally?
I think it's definitely, it's more of a feeling. And sometimes it feels really good to, it doesn't feel good, but it's nice to like go too far
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
God, it smells so good.
Wow. Yeah.
It looks.
I'm excited.
Can I play with this right now?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Oh, great.
Oh my god.
This shit did the thing.
It's not recording?
It is recording.
Mine's still recording. What did it?
This is amazing.
I'm excited. I'm gonna answer that. It's just gonna be whatever it is. I'm just.
Thank you.
Lucy. I love you so much. I'm doing this interview. Can I call you afterwards? I will have an amazing drive back. Congrats on making it through Friday. You have to meet EJ at some point. Do you wanna say hi? Oh, you did meet EJ. And you met at the event.
I
Can
mean,
we
so,
see?
yeah. What up, Lucy? Hello? Hi. What up? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to be like, holy
You're
shit.
good.
Yeah.
It's a lovely interview, and I hope it's a lovely Friday.
Oh, it's so good.
Enjoy.
Um, Yeah, I'm trying to come up to see you at some point.
Any point, yes, please.
I've seen pics. It looks gorgeous. Hope you're feeling really resolved and settled up there as well.
Big time. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to spend more time with you.
Likewise. I will see you soon.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Lucy.
Okay.
Alright. I love you. I'll talk to you.
Bye.
Okay, phone on sound. That's another thing.
Straight out.
Oh, right? I got a grill though.
Oh my god.
This is like really, again, it's fun. You know, sometimes you're on a set and a phone goes like, what the fuck was that? We just ruined a take, we ruined film, and like, yeah, it's been fun to even just, like, I feel like we're exploring right now. It's like, okay, we're talking about an event, we're talking about Cries Happily, but I want to go back to, I want to challenge ourselves to talk about the here and now today as well.
Alright.
And you mentioned something that I'm gonna kind of jump off with, talking about flow in response to the Cries Happily event and moderating and it being a little bit rigid. And I'm curious for you in your life and work, does flow feel like something that's easy for you to access, or is it like how often do you feel like you're in a flow state creatively and as an individual, or is there, you know, sticking to a script, a lot of thinking? I know for myself, flow is hard to find and stay with it.
I feel like I was just having this conversation like a few days ago about flow, because that's the space that I want to be in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like maybe that's not realistic, or if you were in that state all the time, you probably wouldn't want it after a certain point, you know, just like what you life stuff and sort of you get what you've asked for and then you don't want it anymore kind of thing. But I feel like flow is where I end up being or feeling super present. There's no anxiety, there's no second guessing, there's no insecurity. You're kind of just like in the thing where you are with your materials, with your people, like whatever is happening is the thing that's happening, and that's fine. And I feel like I'm always trying to get to that. And I think there's a certain amount of preparation that's needed. But I feel like over preparing reverses the sort of like, you know? And I think that night I was maybe like, because I never moderated a discussion before, I wanted to do it so well. I wanted like no room for error, and I think that took a lot of, for me, I think that took a lot of the soul out of it, you know? It was less human because I was like trying to be like super robotic in all of the ways that I think some of like my most memorable panels or discussions have been.
They were robotic.
They weren't robotic, but I think the people moderating like were practiced enough and really good at what they do that it made it seem like just so good. And I guess maybe I didn't trust fully my ability to do that if I didn't like have benchmarks or notes that I needed. You know, when you like watch like late night shows, they always have the cards, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted the cards.
You wanted the cards.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're getting like a take two where we're kind of just pulled up today.
This feels way better.
It does?
Yeah, this feels way better.
What about it?
There's no people here. It's just us.
No people?
Yeah.
I hear that.
Because I felt like I mean, the camera serves as like a different type of audience, but I feel like there's a little more forgiveness and grace with the camera and editing and everything that like comes with viewing something after the fact, but in real time in front of an audience, and there's just like so many unknown factors, and this feels a little bit more like controlled and safe, and that's my shit.
How does that I guess I'm just curious that comparison of the camera control safe and then live maybe more unknowns. Just curious, I want to like think through your practice and different modes of working, that same thinking of performance versus painting, and thinking about an audience will be experiencing something kind of once production is closed, as opposed to performance where it's a little more open, there's more variables.
Well, I think it's maybe like in my performance work, this comes, like you were saying a little bit ago, the timeline for conceptualizing and producing is like, months at a time, sometimes half a year, sometimes up to a year. And I feel like when I go into a performance, I don't just like show up to the venue or the gallery or the museum and like do the first thing that comes to my mind. Like I've been thinking about this action or these series of actions for, sometimes upwards to a year. And so like I feel like I have accounted for as many corners of the thing itself as possible. And so by the time I present that to an audience, the audience is experiencing it in real time for the first time ever. But I have like it's lived in my head for months and months and months. And so that night, I had like maybe a week or two to jot some notes and think about it and watch like listen to the interviews and watch the Christ Happily films. And so it all felt like, I was like, oh my God, like what?
Okay, so next time I'll hit you up like a year ahead of time. We'll practice, another space.
Exactly. But I mean, like because your background, or your like art background is in photography. Like that's sort of like how you came to like moving image, was via still image. And so I feel like your relationship to the camera and images have always sort of been in a sort of like stretched out fashion. You take like it's always sort of like preserving a time, the here and now, for later consideration. And I'm wondering if there's any like big markers or big significant shifts in your thinking or approach when it comes to still leaning into moving image now. Like what's changed?
My gut wants to say there's been like a type of like full circle thing that's happened. Also, Marion, these wings are incredible.
So good.
Wow.
Figured out my grill.
Yeah.
Flow.
Yeah. You're flowing on the grill?
Flow.
Yeah, there's some, I'm tasting flow for sure. Speaking of flow, I'm trying to think about moments where I've had flow when making films. It's not a very flowy medium. I think with like narrative film in particular, because you're just like dissecting the story and shooting it potentially in all these different angles. You're breaking up. It's like really you kind of have to like be able to like get into a flow like in a take. Then you're also thinking about what you wrote, thinking about it in the edit. It's like very hard to be present, but I'm trying to like always challenge myself to make sure I feel like I don't always have a relationship, but like I want to have like fun and flow be like coexisting. And I realized when I was shooting Hang Time, or after Hang Time, I was like, I did not have fun shooting this. I was really stressed. And part of the reason I shot the film the way I did, I think, was because I didn't want to worry about post-production. I think I tried to shoot that movie the way that I made photographs before I came out to grad school, which was very kind of pre-production, production heavy. Post-production was really just like polishing what was shot. So, it'd be like kind of, look at a lot of reference images, like know exactly what time the light would be doing, what I wanted to do, kind of talk to people about what images I was trying to make, and then type of camera I was using. There was large format still photography, so I only had a handful of slides to shoot because it was really expensive, and I just took a bunch of time in the moment. Like we might spend.
My bad.
What is it?
I said I got a bunch of bones.
No, you're good. It's gonna be casual. Do your thing. We were thinking about shooting the interview just sitting on the floor. Like, we want people to feel like we're not taking ourselves too seriously. Chicken helps. But yeah, it was just like a lot of, similar to how you're talking about approaching performance, like there was a lot of thought before, and then when I pressed the shutter, like the work was kind of done. And we might take 40 minutes just setting up one shot, like making sure the camera's right, just really taking our time, me and the subject. And then once I started getting into making films, I feel like that all went out the window, and I was really just feeling like a baby and making things the way I thought I needed to make them. So I was like not in the moment at all. I was just kind of thinking about the next step and not really like tapping in with like my photographic roots and making sure I'm like crafting a beautiful image and like really in the moment. I don't even know if I'd say I was having that much fun when I was making still images, but I was definitely in a flow state. Like I just knew my camera, I knew the film that I liked to shoot, kind of just knew what I was gonna get. And then I think with Hang Time, I didn't wanna I wanted to just make still images. So I was like taking a lot of time to set up the shot, frame it, make sure it was perfect. And I wasn't really shooting anything for backup. So it was really like, this is gonna work or this is like not gonna work. In a film, you might shoot a bunch of different angles just to be like, oh, we'll see what happens in post. So there's like both a ton of preparation that needs to go in it, but there also needs to be like a lot of kind of seem to throw your hands up in the air and just be like, we're gonna do the most that we can do on set today, and we're gonna have to watch it after we shoot and see if it's any good. And I think I was scared to leave anything up to chance, so I tried to like pre-plan everything. So I guess I feel similar to like how you described maybe how moderating felt, where I was like super rigid. I had my shots. I wasn't reacting in the moment, being like, what's the most beautiful shot right now? I like showed up being like, this is what we need to go, what we need to do. So I was really just like checking a list that I had, and I think when that's happening, like there's a ceiling that you've created beforehand, and unless everything goes perfectly, you're gonna like miss that ceiling, as opposed to showing up and being really open where there's not necessarily a ceiling. It's just like you're reacting to every single thing and you're like slowly pushing up what a ceiling can be.
Right.
And I think with like filmmaking, there's an opportunity to do that in a different kind of way, because there's all these different pieces and there's moving, and the image is moving, and you're working with actors, and there's just so many elements. You're working with light, sounds can be happening, all these crew members who can like add something. So I think there's like a lot more barriers to flow, but I think if you can get into a flow state, I think there's like a really exciting potential.
I think you sort of like hit the nail on the head with like what I was thinking in terms of a lot of moving parts and people, location. Like there's so many unknowns, potential unknowns, because there's so many shifting conditions. I think so many times I'm working alone in a studio or like at my computer, and so like so much of my process is solitary until the moment of presentation. And so I think again with the panel, I had in my mind how I thought it would go or I wanted it to go, and I was like, yeah, like I'm chill, I'm flexible, like I'm leaving enough room for chance. And then there were like 4 of y'all up there, you know, and then an entire audience. 4, there's 4.
Yeah. Me, Marion, Dorian, and Bruce. I'm not forgetting. No. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of like I didn't account for like all of the other players in the room, which was like new for me because I don't usually work with like, or my making process to form the thing isn't usually done like on a team, you know. But that's like one of the reasons I respect film and music processes, because to make an album, to make a film, you need so many hands.
Yeah.
And I love that. The credits at the end of the film,
It's my favorite part.
the liner notes on an album, like it's just like all of those things are like super important. Everybody gets a shout at the end, you know.
Well, you've made some pretty large sculptural pieces, so I'm curious what your experience has been like collaborating with different fabricators, or if it feels like it may be more akin to the moderating experience of having the script and kind of knowing exactly what is wanted, or if there's kind of, it's a hybrid thing. And also I think, the materials you're working with also will push back in some ways. So I'm curious how that,
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth in the large scale sculpture, but for some reason it still feels like, and I struggle with this because I'm working on a few things right now where like I'm in Zooms and I see everyone like looking at me expectantly, kind of just like, all right, just like tell us what to do, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like, what do y'all think? You know, like, how was your day? Like, did you call your mom today? You know, like, I'm way more like, let's hang out and just like be friends, and something will like sprout up between those cracks of like vulnerability and friendship and care. You know, I'm not like hippie shit all the time, but like when it comes to making a thing, I don't really have like the sort of like dom top energy to be like, it needs to be blue, it needs to be not like, you know, but like Evian water, my red M&Ms, you know, like I'm not that type of person. And so I think a lot of people have been working in like design teams and fabricators, like their job is like, give us the specs, we'll do the thing within our sort of capabilities, we'll let you know if that doesn't work, and then we'll go from there. But even at like spec stage, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like, let's just play. But I'm getting there.
What's an example of that play? I guess I'm curious, like an arc, or if you could just dream up what the arc would look like in an ideal world.
I mean, in an ideal world, I kind of just want to be like in a room making like dumb, colorful paintings, you know? Like that's what I want to do. But I think I'm also pragmatic, and I have to like pay rent and buy gas for my car and like, you know, live, buy groceries. And so I'm like figuring out like what part of this can be like solely for me, to where I can just make and play and flow and keep my spirit alive artistically, and then what are the things that I can do with my creative faculties that like help me to survive within like a, you know, professional sphere. Like how do I make the capital A artwork, and then how do I capital W work, you know? Sometimes those feel like different. Do you, I mean, like
capital A artwork and capital W work,
you know? Maybe I'm making that distinction unnecessarily, but like, how does that?
What is the distinction for you? I don't know.
There's like shit that I do in my studio that are like just for me. Like every time I pick up my guitar in the studio and like play a few chords and sing, like that feels good and it keeps me centered and grounded. I feel like the second I would have to pick up my guitar like constantly for like hours each week because like somebody's expecting me to deliver some like composition, or I'm rehearsing for some performance that, you know, people are gonna like RSVP to, like all of that is like when it starts fitting into economics and industry and livelihood, like that feels like the capital W work to me. But when I'm just like in the studio playing my guitar for nobody other than me, that's like, I think, where the art starts. And of course there's a Venn diagram in these things, but like, I think the play and the flow, for me, most often happens in the like, conceptualization stage.
Does the A become capitalized when there's a viewer, when it's in the world, or is it more just about how you're approaching it?
That's a good
Do
question.
you see things, when you're just picking up your guitar, playing a couple chords and singing in a studio, is that capital A art for you? Do you want it to be? Do you want to not even think about it? Just like,
Yeah, I guess
do the thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just like do the thing, I don't, damn.
Music's really special in that way, though. I think it can be, because I think you can create something to be experienced in. I guess performance is like this as well, but to be experienced in real time. And I struggle with film with this so much because it requires, even if you're doing something small on a gun, it requires like a little bit of infrastructure and some gear and some kind of, you need coordination. And not that you don't need it with other things, but I think the ability to like go from idea to finished art or finished product, it can be so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been in the studio with friends and they're recording something and I'm drumming something on my keys in my pocket and it's, oh, that's cool, can we record? Oh, can you do that again? Okay, cool, let's lay it in. Okay, cool, okay, let's double that. Okay, cool, all right, can you lay it on your lap? Okay, word. And it's done and you're just like, what the fuck, that was so amazing.
Frenzied.
And so magical and just like I guess there was flow and you're just responding in real time. And I think I'm learning I've started finding that in filmmaking a little bit, but I don't think it's like a medium for me to just get my like yayas out. It's I get blocked, I think, or I'll get frustrated if I just try and just go out and not think about it. It's like it's not gonna be good often.
Right.
So I'm trying to find some other form of expression where I can just kind of, better.
Can I give him some or no? Probably not.
I'll wait to ask Marianne. I don't know. But I'm trying to find something where I can flow, but I'm also like a perfectionist. So if I'm like, I just start drawing or something, be like, this is not it. But it would be, I want to get over that. I want to just be able to go from mind to body to something in the world.
I mean, maybe that's just your process though. Like, does that mind, body to something in the world exist for you within other practices or media?
I feel like this has been something, this being conversation, discussion, podcast, interview, whatever it is, I don't know. I feel like this is like the beginning of an exploration, but it feels like I'm really present and there's something being built. And a conversation, it's kind of like music a little bit, where you're saying something, processing, responding. We're kind of like building these blocks together and something will be there at the end that wasn't there before, and it just took like both of us showing up and being present and like open and listening. So I think, I'm starting to experiment with that, and that being something that is both, I just like doing it naturally. I just want to talk to people I care about, whose minds I appreciate. I think the conversations should be like, you're good, I didn't see anything. Can be very ripe and exciting. I don't know where they're gonna go. Maybe I'll do some that are a little more structured, but I think, like think about like Studs Terkel, like that seems like someone who like, again, I've read a lot of his interviews, but I haven't read interviews of him speaking about the work he does, which I'd want to do more. I think I've seen like one, but he's showing up, putting in the time, and has a knack for being able to disarm people and just kind of see to something really just get to something really human and clear and relatable that like transcends time. Like I read these interviews and I'm just like, this could have been written tomorrow, like tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, it's so generous to just have all of this and to have committed. Again, I think a practice is also something I like want to have, and I think a medium that does potentially require a lot of resources and time and pre-production, production, post-production. It feels like it can be tough to have it be a practice, to show up every day and commit yourself to it. I want to find my own version of that. I'm thinking about starting to do little interviews in Oregon and just kind of opening up an interview just talking about like, why Oregon? How did you find yourself here? Were you born here? Where were you before? And using that as like an entryway into conversation, getting to know the area better, and just kind of starting to like get to know people in my community, and then, you know, slowly kind of building out to anyone I meet. So I'm thinking about that being a potential practice, and maybe I do one a month, shoot it for one day, and then I'm sitting with it editing. But I want a more immediate, like, daily practice. Like, that's just for me.
What does that look like for you? More immediate daily practice when you imagine that? What is that?
I mean, I think what I struggle with is going back to the capital A art versus the capital W work. I think the two are like linked right now in my head. And I often, they'll kind of be fighting with each other. I'll be like, oh, this feels good, but it's not gonna be worthwhile. Or it's not gonna, or, oh boy, this could be really, like, this could fucking make my career blow up if I do this. And it's like, oh, well, this is gonna take a lot of resources or so much time to get there. Okay, what do I do now? Again, it's like going back to the quote, like, what do I have? And also, like, what do I even want to do? I don't know. I'm just like spiraling out in my head because I'm a thinker. I overthink, but I think maybe part of it is just like just start fucking meditating. Maybe that's my daily practice, and it's just like mental exercises. Maybe it's dreaming in like an exciting way.
Yeah, because I feel like anything we do as, you know, makers, thinkers, artists, like what I feel like all of it could potentially be part of the practice, you know? Like it's like,
You're right.
like I'm it may not be the same action every day, or you may not be in the same place performing the same sort of tasks, but I feel like eventually everything kind of funnels through the channel, which is you, essentially, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And gets diffused in these like discrete ways.
This is just, yeah, it's the framing. I mean, this is, talking about Cries Happily, just the amount of people who are like, what is it? They're like, is it an art project? Is it a brand? Is it a production company? Is this film advertising a sweatshirt? Is it sweatshirt advertising the film? It's been really interesting to again try to not like force it into a box, but I also like recognize that proper context can really just help the work. Like not properly contextualizing the work is kind of doing it a disservice. Which has been part of the reason like we spent so much time figuring out what's the website, how do we want to sell the clothing, how do we want to show the film. The film felt done at Wansimer, but I realized like I don't think it works to just be watched outside of that setting because there was so much context that night. Just even if the context was a question that wasn't clear, like you had a lot of different opportunities to kind of like sit with this idea. You could see it in sweatshirt form. You could see it on like a event card. They were you could record an interview into something. There was a big projection. We're all talking about it. Like you were kind of positioned to be, you knew that you might not know what the thing is, but that was clear. And then with the film just being experienced separate from that, you lose that context. You kind of just watch and you're like, okay, like this is beautiful, but I don't really know what it is. So we like, for months, we're just like, how can we frame the film to give people enough context to know how to watch it, because it's not a traditional narrative. There's a clear structure with it, but I think it doesn't doesn't give you what you're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of subversion of an expectation can be really productive when that's part of the work. But that wasn't really part of it. Like, we don't want people confused. So we landed on adding some title cards at the beginning to just give it a little context. So the way that the film played at Wandsworth, it just started with a blue screen, and then you heard a recording of me saying, "What is crying?" I correct myself. "It is cries happily mean to you?" And then the first film starts playing. And that didn't feel clear enough. So now you start watching the film, there's a blue screen, and then it says "Cries happily," centered. That's kind of like a title card. And then 10 scenes on a feeling, and then a title card for each film before the film. So it's like 01, sun. So you know you're watching 10 things, that's just out of the way. So you're just kind of told how to watch it, and then you dive in. I don't even know how I got on this. I'm trying to like remember
Just go.
how we got. We're going forward,
Just go.
forging ahead. But I guess just like this need to, not a need, I guess I feel like the work deserves proper context, but I think that it's a really tricky balance of like properly contextualizing and then like over contextualizing, overthinking the context.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not thinking about that, or I've found it frustrating making work that I think is really dope but doesn't have a clear home. And I found that, I think, a little bit in grad school, where it's like, is it merch? Is it art? And I think these different labels do kind of affect the value, or the way people perceive the value of it, which is something I'm interested in playing with. But I also kind of want to I want the W, capital W word.
Yeah.
Like, I want to find a way to like be able to just make the things I want to make in the way that I want to make. I think we're getting closer, and I think working with someone like Marion has been helpful to just have another ear, another voice, another mind thinking about how to give context. But I met Eve Fowler at the opening, and I got to talking about making clothing, and working with text, and then she mentioned shirts.
Yeah.
She makes prints, and I'm actually we're gonna like chat soon. I need to follow up. I think she's preparing for her show. But people have found a way to like, have the work that you can give to the gallerist, that you can kind of put in one context, and then there's the work that can kind of live separate from it. But I think I've just struggled to like know how to do that, and I also don't want to spend so much time thinking about that shit. I just want to make the work.
Right.
So I've kind of just been like, let me just make the stuff and cross my fingers, and it'll figure itself out one day. I don't know.
I feel like that's a great impulse, though, because part of me, a huge part of me feels like that's not our job. Like, sure, we understand sometimes our motives for doing something, but to like contextualize it end to end so that it's like widely received, I don't think is something we need to be preoccupied by. I think that comes from just like making, and then hopefully after a while the work itself will contextualize the other works that came before it, that preceded it, the works that come after. And so I think what's really beautiful about this Cries Happily project is that like there is this kind of like desire to and I say this, I use this word, but I hope it doesn't sound like fucking like
I trust you. I let you say whatever you want to say.
I don't like, it's like this impulse to make it like palatable or something, and my question is like, but why? Like who is that? If it's for you, then like I fuck with that. But if it's like you want to contextualize it so that like other people are like less confused, it's not that interesting to me, because I think like these days, everything is so palatable and easily understood for our like ant-sized fucking attention spans, And so I think like maybe this work, this project in particular, maybe it's not meant to be understood right now. Maybe it's meant to be like really delved into like 5 years from now, after you and Marion and collaborators have amassed so many different examples of what Cries Happily is, that there's this like dense archive where people could like look back and be like, oh shit, and they were making this like post-pandemic, this is what Cries Happily is, like this is what it means. I don't know if there's any like rush to define that now, because the work eventually, like, you know, the shit, like the cream rises to the top, man.
Yeah, no, that's facts, and I do think, yeah, commitment to work. I think time adds a lot of context, and I think just letting it be kind of what we said earlier, or what I said earlier, and how we're thinking about the website, just letting it be what it is at the moment, and not needing to like build this massive thing before sharing it with the world. It's just like, cool, here's another little thing. Maybe we'll do another thing like this. Maybe not.
Does this feel different for you in terms of like building context and making sure that like narrative is tight and like things are understood? Like, is this the first time you're dealing with this in your practice in this way?
Like, you say that one more time.
Like this difficulty of like trying to make sense of it all. Have you ran into something similar in like other works or previous works or moments?
All right, we're gonna go on a little ride.
Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna get some wings for this one.
Yeah.
There's a wet towel too. You guys-
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
You said making sense of things in other works or just other parts of life. Or
Yeah, because I guess I'm trying to get to like, you know, you mentioned that part of the struggle with Cries Happily is like defining it, like what is it, and like, or what is it not? And I'm wondering if that same sort of confusion or inability to define is something that's consistent in your work in general, or is this the first time you've like dealt with this in this way?
It's so consistent in my life. If I think about middle school,
Yeah.
like just wearing a lot of different hats that like you're not supposed to, not necessarily you're not supposed to wear at the same time, but there were no other like, I didn't see any examples of people wearing these different kinds of hats, of being in certain classes, being a skateboarder, being a lacrosse player, basketball player, being black, just all of these different kind of conflicting identities, I think, that I, for a very long time, just tried to kind of keep separate from each other. So like kind of just, I think I got used to having like a pretty fractured sense of self and identity, and I think that is something that's consistent in my work, where there's like a, I don't know, it feels related to like a kind of ambivalence that I think I've felt. Like I think I often have a desire to, and I think this is, I'm feeling it shifting with my practice, but there's both a desire to want to like pull people in, and I want to like engage and have a conversation, but I also kind of want to like push you away. And I think that dance is really, it's tricky. I think I'm finding a better way to, or I'm finding out more ways to just have balance as I just learn the medium better. So I think there is a lot of it that's just like, I'm still an infant, I feel, with moving image. So one example being the Cries Happily film, where I did feel this pressure to add some context, just to like allow people, I want to make it accessible. Because I do think there's a level of depth in all of the vignettes that I want people to be able to engage with. And if people are just thinking about, oh, is this a narrative film? Oh, I thought this was gonna be a narrative film. Like there are certain questions that a viewer might be asking themselves that are unproductive. And it's not that I don't want to like challenge a viewer or like I want to spoon feed them, but I'm like, let me just tell you how to play the game, and then you're still gonna have to work. Like you're gonna have to like engage with this at the pace that it's at. It's very slow. There's not a lot that happens. So I think once we added that those title cards and just giving a little more context, I felt like, fuck yeah, like this feels really balanced, where we're still making really honest, distinct work that's not trying to be super fast or trying to be super flashy, but we're not making it. It's not inaccessible. It's still like it's somewhat generous. It's generous and accessible, but also like confident, self-assured, and requires some work on the viewer's part. So I think that's kind of where I try to stand with a lot of work right now, is like, I want to do enough work where you can also do work. We're both going to do work. Because I don't want to just like, I know people who have a very different perspective where they're just like, I'm doing it my way, and I've made work like that. This is exactly what I want to do, and if nobody gets it, that's fine. And I'm like, okay, that's a vibe. Like, but I want to make work to have a conversation. And I think going back to like childhood, like there was a time where I think I didn't know how to just like have a conversation, didn't know how to be intimate, didn't know how to be like vulnerable, and I was a troll. And I think you talked about this a little bit at the event of making work that's like a gut punch. And I think there's like still a troll in me, but like I try to use those powers for good now, and like have a good challenging conversation, and not one that just is like kind of pushing people away.
What is the conversation that you want to have? Or what's one of them?
Yeah, I think one of them is like, what are ways we can, or how can we realize our own power and our own ability to make ourselves feel good in the moment, despite whatever is happening around us, locally, nationally, globally. Not to ignore it, but just to find balance, to be able to like take care of ourselves, to just think a little bit more about, I think, self-care and just rethinking self-care and what it can look like, and also just like trying to like retrain a gaze and a way of thinking of just, I think, being present. I mean, I do think there's like I think flow probably ties in some way, just people who are really present to feel what they're feeling in the moment, to kind of like listening to their needs and not distracted by all the noise or the I should do this, I should do that. I think that's like a big one is, like what if we could all slow down and just like listen to our own needs. There's times where it's like I'm sitting somewhere and I have to go to the bathroom and I'm like, I don't want to inconvenience someone else, or like I don't want to go to the bathroom. It's like, no, I'm gonna go to the fucking bathroom. Went to the pizza spot today. I was like, you have hand sanitizer? I'm like, no, but I guess there's a sink in the kitchen. I was like, in my mind, I don't want to disrupt the kitchen, but I was just like, okay, he said it. I'll go wash my hands. Just like being comfortable, I guess, taking up a little bit more space, but also like being comfortable just giving into these tiny impulses. Yeah. How are you with self-care and listening to needs and boundaries and also what conversations are you interested in having right now?
I think I'm getting better at self-care and boundaries. Like with each passing year, I feel a little more resolved in self. I care a tiny bit less each year with like how I'm perceived, what people think about me. A little more self-assured, I guess, is a clear way to say that. So I feel like I feel solid today, these days. I have learned to say no to things that don't serve like me or my spirit alignment or the sort of like health and well-being of those around me, immediate or extended communities. Like I just like, it's so much easier to be like, actually that's not for me and that's not for us. And so I'm just gonna keep it moving. And so like, I'm getting better. I think if I'm lucky, it's a lifelong process, but
For sure.
yeah, self-care for me right now just looks like, yeah, man, just like doing what I want to do. And not on some like selfish shit, but just kind of like.
But what's wrong with selfishness? I think that's another thing I'm trying to reframe.
Right.
Or how do you define selfish?
I find, okay, this could be tricky because I think selfish, yeah, there's a healthy amount of selfishness that I think we all could afford to harbor. But I think I've been so conditioned to understand selfishness as like, if I'm gonna do something for me, that means I gotta block you from your shit. Like
a zero-sum game or something.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
And so I think, and I don't think that that's like true. I just think that that's how selfishness has been modeled, largely. You know, like if I do me, that means I have to fuck your shit up. And I do think that there's another way. I do think there's a way where like, I'm actually gonna do the thing for me, and you have plenty of space to do the thing for you. Like I don't have to like try to knock you off your block so that like I can get mine. And I think that so much of the world works like that. And it makes me think of that sort of you know, saying that I probably read it in some like tweet or something, that like white people are so up in arms about like Black Lives Matter. Remember during the like All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter shit, or not shit, but like All Lives Matter shit. And the idea or the fear or the anxiety seemed to be people like Black Lives Matter being like not an anti-white thing. It's just like we're out here just trying to like live and thrive and like live our best lives. But so much of like, you know, white power movements means the exclusion of literally everybody else, where like Black power is just like, we're just trying to do us, you know, like that's it. But like there's this sort of like framing where like if I'm the most secure person in the room, that means that like everybody else has to get shit on. And I think that that's been like the model for so long in like dominant ideologies and normative practices, but like it doesn't, everybody else is saying like, hey, it doesn't have to be like that. It literally does not have to be like that. Shit, now I'm sorry. How the fuck?
No, you're good. I was asking self-care. That was like right. Because I think you were saying not wanting to be selfish. And I was just kind of wanting to investigate selfishness.
Yeah, just doing me, you know. And I think I get nervous with the term selfish. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to be selfish. No, not me. Is because the example of taking care of oneself and those around you that I am used to. I think a lot of us are used to. Means that like somebody else isn't getting theirs, and that's what I want to avoid. I don't want to do that.
Totally. Well. Ask a difficult question. What if someone else getting theirs means that you're really not getting yours?
I mean, I feel like I live that every day. You know, like I already know what that's like.
Or does that? Or I guess do you feel like I guess I don't know. I in the last couple of years I've really just tried to just think about how much I care and love people and want to be supported, but also like if I'm fucked up and my tank's empty, I can't help anybody if I don't take care of myself. So like I guess thinking like that, like selfishness can like allow me to be like more selfless and like striking that balance. But what are some things that EJ dislikes to do? Like just likes to do like this week where you're just like, yeah, I just wanted to do this and it felt really good. Just like little indulgences, or how do you treat yourself?
I'm in therapy. That feels like a
you know, I just got back in therapy.
Like that feels like something that like is really important. I woke up this morning at like 6 and ran 5 miles, you know, like I feel like I'm slowly getting to the point where there's plenty of shit to do. There's so many emails that I have to respond to. There's like Zoom calls there's like so much shit to do always. But the pandemic taught me a really beautiful lesson that like, it's fine. Like we can all stay in our homes for months at a time, and like things will be okay. Like nobody knew what that was gonna be. We were all so freaked out about like the world like shutting down and ending, and like we humans are highly adaptable, you know. Like we are able to withstand some like pretty crazy circumstances, and like live to tell about it. And so I think like if I don't answer a few emails for like a few weeks, like so what? Like everything's gonna be fine. Nobody's gonna die, you know.
And if something's really urgent,
Just call me.
yeah, it'll be communicated. It'll get figured out.
Yeah.
Not a doctor.
You know.
I'm gonna move some cameras real quick. I just want to.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I feel
about
this
talking?
This feels like when we were just like hanging out at Kenneth Hahn, or like walking around.
That was really beautiful.
This kind of feels like that with wings, you know.
Yeah. Thank you for the lens, Mary.
Yeah, thanks, man. For real, man. This is so good. Yeah, this is way cooler. Or not cooler. It's different.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
This is like my like personality. I think is far better suited to something like this.
Me too.
Yeah.
So we got 50 minutes. So
Damn, for real?
Yeah, but yeah,
Dang.
we started.
Miriam, what do you do for yourself? You're not on camera anymore.
Is that a deliberate thing? Were you previously?
No.
The whole plan was supposed to be he was not sharing with one camera.
Just not feeling it,
That's fair.
That's fair.
It was like, it wasn't really good.
When's the last time you took yourself out to dinner?
Um,
I'm trying to. I don't do that
like 2
enough.
nights ago? Where'd I go? I'm solo a lot. Yeah. You know Erin, right? Yeah, so she was gonna come tonight, but I think, it's like maybe like 4 years without drinking.
Congrats.
Thank you. And so like, I think, but like before then, I used to be the one like shutting the bar down, and then trying to find the after party after that. And so many people that we know and work with, and the art world, like the liquor and wine flows like fucking water at these events. And so it's been hard. It hasn't been hard really for me anymore, but I think it's still kind of difficult for people to be like, oh, you're not gonna come to the thing? Like, we're all gonna go. It's gonna be so fun. You wanna come to dinner? Like, we're going to dinner at 8. I'm like, no, I'm at home at 8.
Yeah.
Like getting ready for bed, Like, and so like I just live a different life now, and I think within the art world, the art industry, and like so much like socializing and partying, I've ended up kind of gravitating toward solitude because so much of what we do is like boozy.
Yeah, boozy and social in a often very unnatural way that requires a lot of recovery and processing time.
Absolutely.
How did you feel? Also, congrats again on the show. How did you feel after the opening?
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Both of you.
course.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you
good
for
to see
the
you.
invite. Yeah, how was that sitting? How did it feel?
It feels good, I'm excited to think about like organizing more presentations and exhibitions, and working with Matt for the Birds Trapped in Airports has been nice because I get to think of like text and images and the book as an art form, and like that is sort of exercising my curatorial brain as well, my like organizing brain. And so yeah, it's been fun. I have ideas for projects that I want to do that like aren't my artwork or music or writing.
It's really exciting.
So that feels cool. Yeah.
Part of the reason producing is though, I mean, I have a kind of Charlie now, bro.
Charlie, come on.
kind of struggle with my relationship with producing for other people. Producing films in particular has been kind of tricky because I think sometimes I can want to lean back on it as a more clear example of capital W work, and also just not have to deal with like all the shit that comes with being an artist and insecurity and like having to deal with myself and having to frame shit. Like it's really, the job is really clear where it's cool. What's your dream? Okay, this is how we can get as close to possible to this dream. This is what it will take to get to the dream. Or okay, we're gonna go to the moon. Okay, like this is how we're gonna get there. This is what's gonna take, and yeah. Or well, okay, you want to go to the moon, but okay, but what part of the moon? Okay, and for how long? And just getting all the specifics.
It's like a puzzle
together.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you know what the finished piece vaguely feels like. You don't know exactly what it looks like, how many pieces there are, what colors it is. So it's just getting, with the medium of film, just there being so many different parts to it. Just kind of like running people's ideas through like a set of filters to get something that's specific and clear. And it feels like what someone was trying to make. But going back to something you said before, and just being able to say no, is it just a gut instinct? Do you have like criteria? Like some people have, number systems. Talking about Matt as well, like I feel like we've had a lot of conversations, Matt and I, about boundaries, and I feel like they're always kind of finding ways to protect themselves when collaborating on commissions and such. And like what's going to be a yes for you and a no for you, and is it something kind of tangible and objective criteria, or just the gut said no today?
It's a little bit of both, but I think again I've like started to like recognize patterns, and one of those patterns now, I feel like I've been doing this not that long, but long enough to know that like.
How long would you say?
Probably like 15 years.
It's a good time.
It's long enough.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I like to know that like I have some some approaches that like work, and long enough to know that like if I make certain decisions after a series of conditions like have been met, then I'll feel better about the outcome. One of those being, I think this came up during the panel too, I'm not sure, but during the talk at WANTGOOD that night, but this idea of like networking, right? Like talking to someone and like, oh, what do you do? Like, maybe we could collab. Like, it's like I came up with a group of people who were like all at the same level. We were all peers, we were all friends hanging out, and we all just kind of like raised each other. And so I've never really been in a position entirely where like someone from an older generation or who had like more power or money kind of like came down and plucked me from my like meager like nascent artist like baby art school sphere and like put me on. Like we were all just like doing shit together. And so I think at a certain level I realized, I've never really participated in a show or a biennial or any one of these like exhibitions at a gallery or museum where it wasn't someone that like I already like fucked with on a friend level. Every time I've been invited by someone who I've never met before, it's like a cold email or an invitation that's like, hey, we love your work, do you want to do something? Now I pause, now I'm just kind of like, well, who are you? And what are you about? And how do you handle stress? And what are your conflict resolution styles? And like all of this stuff that like with my friends and the people that I've come up with over the years, I've got to witness, and vice versa. But when you're like coming totally green with someone who wants to work on like a 2 to 3 year long project with you, I'm no longer at the point where like I will say yes because I want the exposure. I don't need exposure. I feel like far too exposed most days of my life. What I need is like safety, security, and financial stability. So a lot of my no's come from like, I don't fucking know you, and no, you know.
Wow. What are your conflict resolution styles or approaches?
Well, yeah, because like, you know, everything's great in the beginning.
Oh, no, of course, but I'm saying you're essentially entering into like a relationship with folks. It's not casual, like,
No.
and there's money involved, there's egos, like
It's deep shit.
Like I'm just like repeating it because I feel like there's so many things that feel like that feels like it should be obvious. But I've never heard anyone say that, and I'm sure that a lot of most people, I would guess most artists have not asked that question. I'm sure people have felt what happens when that question is not asked, when a boundary's been crossed.
Mm-hmm.
But that type of like anticipatory or preventative, just like self-care or like boundary setting or just like questioning. I think it's so important, and
but I've only gotten to this point because of all of the like.
You have to go through it.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, one of the first. We talked about this that night. My first experience of your work was at your open studios during I think it was your thesis year, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Your graduate, and I like I was like walking through the studio building, and kept hearing people be like, "Oh man, did you hear about like Chester? Like they like, oh Chester, like he did this thing with his studio, and oh it's been such a crazy day." And I was like, "Who the fuck is this Chester guy? What did he do?" And I go to your studio, and the plaque above your door had me like audibly gasp. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I wish I had taken that fucking shit with me. Oh my god, I should have taken the wood off. I should have that. I need to be better about keeping important objects. So during such a different chapter.
I bring this up because I feel like you're like, I know you know how to like set up some boundaries, and I know you know how to push back. I know you know how to assert yourself in spaces that like feel like they're kind of restricted. So like, because that was my first encounter with your work.
Wow. Yeah, so I was in grad school. I don't know why just saying in grad school at UCLA makes me want to laugh, because it feels like it was such in the moment or before going. It was such a massive thing where I was expecting to get in, and I got in, and it's this great grad program. And you know, when a pandemic hits and you pivot mediums, and it's been like 4 years since graduating, it's like a great experience, and I loved it. But it just feels so distant. I think that's the thing. I'm like trying to like relate to that chapter when this institution like instigated me to make a artwork, which is part of the reason they offered us. I'm gonna answer your question, but they offered us after the pandemic hit like a chance to basically get time back to stay and have your thesis show and do another year, do another semester, and I was just like, thank you so much. I was just like, no, I'm ready to bounce. But anyways, so during my first year, we were in like a temporary building while a new studio building was being constructed, and in, I guess it was like the fall of my second year, we moved into a new building, just been finished, like, you know, probably raised millions of dollars. We were the guinea pigs, first ones in. I got a lovely big studio space, and then one day there's all these wooden, not even like plaques, they're just like 2x4s crudely screwed in above our studio space, and there's different artist names like laser cut in. So I just like walked into my studio one day, or walked up to my studio, and just saw David Hockney's name on top of my studio space. And I have no beef with David Hockney. He's I don't actually know that much about him. He makes some pretty paintings, but I have nothing to do with David Hockney at all. My work has nothing to do with David Hockney. And going back to our conversation about framing and context, I was like, wow, well, my work has now been framed by David Hockney. Every time someone walks into my studio, they're going to think about David Hockney, they're going to think about my work, and they're going to be trying to build a connection, consciously or subconsciously. I don't love that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not really anything I can do about it. And
Why did these blocks show up?
oh, sorry, great question. So they were little bit of AC, but they were a fundraising tool. So I think maybe if you paid $10,000 or $15,000, you could choose what artist you wanted to name a studio. So if I had $10,000 or $15,000, someone from UCLA development reached out to me and they're like, "Can you support the studio? If you give us $10,000 or $15,000, you can choose an artist name, and we're gonna put it on a piece of wood, and you can put it over the studio, and that can be yours." So not even my name, but an artist that I like. So I could be like, well, I love EJ Hill's work, so I'm gonna put EJ Hill's name above this other poor art students. Yeah, I'm gonna pay $15,000 for this piece of wood and put it above. So it costs, that's part of the way that they raise money for the building. I'm grateful for the building, but there was no conversation. These things just appeared.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even remember how long I thought about it. I just was like, what can I do? And I enjoy responding to things. I'm like, okay, how can I reframe this thing that reframed my studio? And I just wrote, what is on top of it? So it read, what if, in Sharpie very crudely, what if David Hockney? And at the end I said, was a nigga, ? And I just left it there, and I was just like, I had a whole installation, blackness was a part of it. I was like, well, cool, this is gonna be a part of my installation. Again, this is framing my space. I'm gonna reframe this thing, and at least I'm gonna have fun with it. And I showed up. So before open studios, there's reviews where faculty will come into your space for 15 minutes, see what you have going on. You have a conversation, and you have a handful of those. And I park, and I'm coming in and it's whispering, and I think some faculty maybe texted me or called me and was just like, hey, heads up, people are really mad about a piece of wood. And I'm like, what?
Who were people? Who were those people?
The faculty, and I don't want to name names, but faculty and development.
Fair.
I think development and the faculty that some faculty are more involved in fundraising than others.
Right.
So some faculty and development were really upset because I think development, again, this is the public revealing of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time the building's, fully activated. People are walking through it. There's art in the studios. Open studios gets a really great turnout in LA. So, hundreds of people come through. And I think development was doing a tour in the morning, and they saw this thing and were horrified, absolutely horrified, and felt this work was being, the building was being defaced. And I think there was some talk of vandalism and you need to pay for damage. There was
by an artist who was invited to be in the program and exhibit their work in this building.
In an art building so basically they're this is your building, but don't do art around it. Be an artist in the box, not around it. And it turned into this whole thing. And some faculty were like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. And some were I get it, but maybe you could just take it down before open studios. And I was like, I don't really want to take it down. I don't think it'd be smart if you take it down because I don't this can just be a piece of wood above my studio.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take this down, now now it's gonna be something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be something. It wasn't a threat, but I was just let it be what it is. and they didn't do anything. And I think again COVID hit, so like our studios, we were kicked out of them, and then I think I just like went back when I was moving out, and I think it was gone, maybe replaced. I wish I had taken it, but it was a whole. There were some moments I was like, am I gonna get kicked out of the program? Am I gonna get fined a bunch of money? It was like people were really freaking out, and I just think it's unfortunate that clearly some people had forgotten like what this building is about, what being an artist is. No one had thought that maybe this is like not a great idea to have that real estate. Just you can name the studio, but do it in a nondescript way. I don't know, have it be somewhere else, or maybe have it be a conversation. Yeah, it was
What do you think draws you to working in that manner where you're responding in such a way that, like, as you referenced earlier, the gut punch, that might be something that's like a little bit like a quick nudge or shake, you know? Is that part of your like no practice?
Trying to connect to things. I mean, I think there's something really specific about being in a space that has really clear boundaries, whether that's a full-time job or a grad school program. And I think, yeah, I do think I always want to be, I want to communicate how I'm feeling. I want people to know how I'm feeling. I think I'm like maybe, I don't know, it's, maybe with another question. I'm struggling to answer the question. I mean, boundaries are really important to me. Communication's really important to me. I try to be as direct as possible. I'm always just trying to get better at not being afraid to share things, even if things are gonna make people uncomfortable. It's a lifelong practice, but I think I also just try to have fun. I think that's part of it too. Like, I think that response was fun for me. Like, I was more just like, oh, okay, like this is not. It's like it's a chance to work my brain. Like, I think I appreciate getting to work my brain, and I think it's similar to, again, what we're doing now, a conversation of just like, oh, okay, like what am I gonna say back? What do I think about this? And I do want, I think another thing I just want to like put out there is I want to collaborate more, where someone's like, I put down this mark. It's like, oh, okay, I put down this mark. Like, I think it back and forth is fun. So I think a part of me maybe just like wanted to have my say. It's like, okay, you see, like you had your say, okay,
Yeah.
I had mine, and like, okay, like we're in a conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, and we're like wrestling, like,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, I don't know if there was like a clear winner, but like UCLA clearly didn't like being wrestled with.
I think there's a clear winner. You got that.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. I did
Yeah,
get
you
that.
did.
Yeah, I guess I think I do enjoy like, I think finding compromise is really exciting. I think that's another reason I enjoy producing, where it's like there's a dream and then there's reality, and you need to find this middle ground where like the idea can still be like realized and executed in a way that's really exciting for the artist, but also it's taking into consideration what resources are available, how gravity works, how the sun works. So I think finding that like in between is really fun. So again, I think like that was an example of that. Yeah, it's just fun trying to find that, but again, some spaces it's not great. My full-time job, I like kind of tried to like find this in between for like what my role was at the company. I think just like, yeah, I enjoy like being in a space and kind of taking in what it's about and then trying to like, yeah, optimize in a way, or like have my presence be felt. Like, I think I'm maybe just not, I struggle to like just exist invisibly or like passively, like I kind of want to leave some kind of mark, or at least try to make the thing better. Where again, I was like this, like that was like kind of a dumb gesture in my opinion. And to like, I could just ruin it, but I could also like, there's still some thought in there. I think that's the thing, like trying to be like thoughtful, like that dance of thoughtfulness, but also like, don't fuck with me, but like that was fun. I don't know if I have from the same person, but it was fun.
It was a great word.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful word.
I think that's the other thing too about framing though, it's like, I want to, and again, I know with time it'll all make sense, but like, I feel like I have there have been these like very specific works where if you were there and experienced it, it was powerful and moving, but I think I've just struggled maybe to know how to, like capture it, or like, I guess like creating some kind of momentum, or not starting over. And I know the work has left an impact. There are people that experience it and they have a memory and there's an impact, but I feel like all these things are so separate and not working together. It's been like this work and then that work. And I'm like, is any of this is it building towards something? I'm growing. I feel like I'm growing as an artist, but I guess I'm curious if you have any moments where you felt like, oh, like the work makes sense, or like there's context, and if it was something that you realized yourself, or you had a friend or a colleague and they curated something, or they just were like, wow, look at all these things. I'm starting to see that certain works are, oh, I'm doing this thing, but was there a moment or a certain amount of time or a work where you were just like, oh, there's a family of it, or they're related, or has the works felt like?
I feel like I've always sort of, because I'm living it, and so I know how things are connected. It's always felt like it's been a part of the same thread for me, and I have struggled over the years to, just a few weeks ago, I met someone, like some collector at some party or something, and someone introduced me to them. They were like, oh, EJ's an artist, I was here in LA. And they were like, oh, what's your work? And I was like, well, right now I'm making sculpture and installation and large scale, like public sculpture. And then this person was like, yeah, but you're a performance artist, right? Like, tell them about the performance. And I was just like, it's like, damn, like even like.
You just said it.
Yeah, like it was just like, this is, like for me, yes, I also make performance. I also make music. I make so many different things when like the spirit calls for that. But I think the reception again, or like how I'm perceived, even in work, is like, I think people just love categorization. It's like really easy, it's really understandable. And so I haven't made a performance since like 2018, since the Hammer Show,
Wow.
I've done some music stuff here and there, but like even after like all the stuff that I've done since 2018, to some, I'm literally still a performance artist, and that like trips me up sometimes. And so again, I've never really thought that I was like doing anything that different, whether it's like sculpture, painting, music, or performance.
Yeah.
It's all kind of the same thing for me. But I think what really locked it in, to answer your question, is making this monograph.
I was just gonna start asking about
With
that.
Matt, And so like now, the process of organizing and publishing my first monograph, I think the earliest work in there is like from 2009, I think. And the latest work is some of the Mass Mocha stuff from like 2022, 23. And so like it's just like being able to see a majority of what I've made since 2009, which spans so many different media, was when I was like, oh, like again, I've always felt it, but now I'm like, this is it. Like there's no denying that this thread is like weaving through literally everything. And if I were to boil it down, I think it's like a conversation about power,
What was the work in 2009?
What was there's a photograph from this like now closed amusement park that was just outside of Chicago called Kittyland, and they had like this small wooden roller coaster, and I think I was in like maybe my sophomore year of college, like photo 101, like darkroom black and white photo class, and I took like a 35 millimeter Minolta on this roller coaster and took a photo of this girl that was like sitting near the front. And so as the coaster is like curving around the bend to go down a second hill, her hands are up, and it's this like really beautiful like stark black and white photo of like this girl's like hands up while we're about to go down the coaster. So that's from 2009. I think there's a performance where I was standing nude and installed a blow dryer from the ceiling on one end of the wall, like rigged it from the outlet up to the ceiling and like had it hanging, and then on the opposite wall had a vacuum cleaner plugged in, installed, and then I stuck the blow dryer in my mouth and then the vacuum with like the hose attachment in my rectum and like turn them both on. And so like you walk into this room and there's just like me in the center of the room, like butt ass naked with like hot air being forced down my throat and into my lungs, like at a rate faster than I could like breathe. So it's like constant, so I'm choking and gagging and spitting, and then there's like this vacuum that's like up my ass and just like suctioning like my insides, and the sound of both of these things like in the room is just like filling this space with like, you know, that mechanical whirring. And so there's an image of that in the book, and those are both from 2009.
What was the work titled?
That one was called Suck and Blow.
How did that work? How did you concept? I'm sorry, you have to repeat this work for Miriam. I'm sorry, cause
yeah, dude, I was on some shit, you know?
Well, it's.
What's up?
I love when y'all talk about your work.
Yeah. I'll give you the abridged version. I basically like
We're talking about EJ's book,
Yeah.
and the first works are from 2009. So there's two works in there. One was a photograph.
One's a photograph of this little girl on this like basically like family size wooden roller coaster, like 2009 black and white photo. Really, it's one of my favorite photographs. But also that the thread is like I've been doing this roller coaster shit for like forever, and people are like, oh, like are you the roller coaster guy now? And I'm just like, no, like I've loved them since I was a kid. Like if you've like fucked with me long enough, you'd see that this is a constant. Anyway, the second work is a performance that I made where I installed a blow dryer, rigged it from the ceiling, and then a vacuum cleaner from the opposite wall, and then like stood in the middle of the room nude and had the blow dryer on the hot setting in my mouth, and then the vacuum with the hose attachment up my ass also on. And so like it was a very like sonically aggressive installation, and then I'm also like choking and gagging because there's like hot air being forced down my throat. And so that went on for like probably 5 minutes until I was like, the fuck am I doing? You know, and I just stopped.
Wow. How did that work? How did both works, both the photograph and Suck and Blow was?
Mm-hmm.
How were they conceptualized? Did you have an idea of a photograph you wanted to make? I guess I'm just curious, like the pre-production and just the thinking that went into both of these. You know, they're such different works, but they came from the same person with the same set of interests. And I was curious where they both come from.
I think when I work photographically, I have this, you know, the Fuji 6x9 at medium format. What did someone call it? What do they call it? I can't remember. I want to say like Texas Leica, but that's not a thing. Is that a thing? Mm-hmm. It's just like big and hunky.
Yeah, I know the camera. I don't know the nickname for it.
But yeah, I basically like shoot exclusively on that. I had this like busted up Minolta when I was in college, and then got that the 6x9 later. And so like film as a photographic process for me has always been really nice because I get to like be in the moment with the image, make a picture, and then like forget about it essentially.
Yeah.
And then I like revisit it later when I get the film process and I'm like scanning the negatives, and like all of that stuff is steeped in rediscovery, I think. And so in the moment when like my fingers, you know, hitting the shutter, I'm not really planning anything. I'm just like witnessing and experiencing and embodying a type of knowledge that I think is pre-language, and I'm responding to all of that. And actually, you know what? It kind of reminds me of like scratching at the cries happily. It's like, what is this thing that I'm feeling that I know is bodily, it's cerebral, it's like in the moment, there's all of these conditions that are converging right now for me to like press this shutter. And the only way for me to understand what it is to press it and then go through the entire photographic process and then look at the image later to understand what it is. Whereas the performance work, I'm thinking, I'm writing, I'm researching, I'm reading, I'm doing so much work on the front end, and then enacting the research via my body, embodying the research, where the photography for me happens sort of like the inverse. I do the thing because I'm feeling all this stuff that I need to like figure out, so I want to preserve the feeling, and then I understand the sort of like motivations for creation after the fact. And sometimes that takes years.
That's so helpful. Just that framing of cries happily, of being similar to like taking an image on celluloid. I don't know exactly what this is, but there's something, and like we're gonna look at it later. It's like I feel like the film still, like the chemicals are developing. It's like, I don't know, like a blue sweatshirt, and I think I can kind of explain some of it, but it doesn't all fully make sense. Do you feel like you need both of those options in a practice, or you're?
Yeah. And I also need like what painting gives me, I need what music gives me, I need all of it to feel like whole.
When have you felt like you had the best balance of all the different ways of making?
Probably now.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Just like right now, right here, you know?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy. Wow.
Yeah, but this is why I'll double down on that. Like, I don't think you're supposed to know right now what cries happily is. I think you just do it and make it, and then like, you know, it'll develop in the solution when it's ready, when it's time, when the chemicals are just right.
Yeah. No, that's real. I just wanna like look at it.
Yeah.
I just really want to look at it. But I hear you with shooting on film. I've made, I guess, 3 projects now on film, and I fucking love it because I hate choices. I'm an overthinker as much as possible. Again, trying to access flow, and I think shooting things on film, especially moving image, because there's such a finite amount of it. It's more complex. You can watch playback on some cameras, but like it's different. But you just kind of have to. You gotta really trust your gut. Film's gonna run out. I think there's something really nice about it. I don't know. Try and move. Well, it actually feels like a little bit kind of a combination of both of the photographic and also like the planning. Because I'm also like, well, I better know what I'm doing if I have this finite amount of film. So I want to plan, or at least be really, I want to have a confidence. Maybe that's it. Not necessarily knowing what I'm going to do, but just a shit ton of confidence and just like let it rip.
Do you feel like you don't usually have that? You got to work yourself up to it?
Oh, yeah. Just in life in general. It can be very... What do you think? Talk about me and confidence. You know me very well.
I mean, we want to teach you.
Have your shit, bro.
That's what I was thinking about. Trusting your gut. Just don't get one shot. Torture. Yeah, I think you talked about boundaries earlier and different ways to protect. I think like a sandbox of mindfulness.
The sandbox of what?
Of confidence, or I think it's not just there. It's confident, create space where you're just like the shit.
Yeah.
And make sure that you have boundaries around it. So when we interrogate it or talk about the space, it's like even what you decide to answer, I think is you exercising your confidence and like, I'm not going to answer that question type thing. But I'm stuck, so.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think at the moment it doesn't just like flow out of me, but I think I know what to do to be confident, and I can like hack it. I feel like I just like learn all these little like cheat codes for myself. Talking about skeet shooting, even like
where was that? When?
in Oregon.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah,
cool.
It's so fun.
That's cool.
Are you down to shoot?
I am. I've maybe like 3 times in my life.
It's fun.
It's crazy. First time was at like it was like a rifle range. So we had like I was like on my stomach on like a
Okay.
like it was like remember the like army figurine man? They're like it's like in that position.
Wow.
I was like, this is fucking crazy. And then the next time was at LA Gun Club, that shooting range.
That place is very stressful.
Yeah, it's hella stressful.
Outdoor
but never
shooting
ski shooting.
is very fun and comfortable.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's the one where you're like, pull that thing, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
you say it into a speaker and it shoots it.
Wait,
This is trap shooting, so it actually goes out.
Oh.
Or ski shooting with across. So there's an up and
Wait, what do you mean out in woods?
from a trap house,
So like
like a house.
Yeah.
Floor, and then shoots
out versus.
So away from you versus across.
Okay, so like if we were shooting,
I
it
see,
could
I
go
see.
as opposed to
I see, got it.
like the flight direction.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's different, and apparently it's just you're shooting up versus down.
Right. Which one's across?
Ski. Thanks to Marion. Marion looked up the spot, found it, and Marion took us when he came to visit in Oregon, and I was like very nervous. It was just like, where are we going? You pull onto this dirt road.
It's closer to the airport.
It's like 20 minutes from where I lived, but I was, you see all these signs with guns, and like, I don't know, I feel like living in LA or like a big city, being in the art world, and you think about other parts of the country that maybe are red or more conservative leaning, and think about white men who would be at a trap club on a Sunday. Your mind goes to my mind there's a lot of fear. And I was just like, what am I doing? But you know what, like, and I'm really practicing just not letting fear stop me from like living my life and just enjoying shit, because I need to live. And it was so pleasantly surprising. These were like the sweetest men. They were just there because they loved doing something. It was like their golf course. They go there, they pay their dues, they were so friendly. Marion had shot before, but like Lucy came, showed us how to use the guns. One guy was gonna leave, stay, I'll help them set up. And we're just like so excited to like share this passion. And it was like a really beautiful moment. And I've had a lot of these moments in Oregon where these, if I would have just, someone were to show me a photo of this person, be like, okay, so you're out in the middle of Oregon, and this guy comes up to you, or like starts to talk to you, like, how do you think the conversation's gonna go? And there's just been so many positive, I don't know, a lot of people don't have time to like, there's a lot of people who have hate, but a lot of people don't have time for that. So it's just, that's been like a really lovely part of the move, is just like unlearning or confronting a lot of this fear that isn't really based in a specific reality. It's based in something that is real and does exist, but it's been nice to not let that kind of limit how I move, and also just like be more open to talking to people. And I actually want to go back to that the trap club, and I had so much fun. It was really addicting.
I want to go.
It was like so much fun, and like, you know, you get into it, you're just like, oh, I hit one, okay, you get like a little dopamine hit. But I want to just talk to those men and like maybe make a little documentary. I just like want to connect with people, and I think we're learning that's a part of my practice is like connecting with people or having capacity to connect in ways that maybe everyone else doesn't. Where like I don't know if like a lot of people who look like me want to bridge this gap or just have this conversation, but like I'm interested in it, so I'm gonna just do that work and see what comes of it, and hopefully that has a positive impact. But yeah, trying to not just like be like, well, I'm over here, I have these views, you're over here. It's like there's a middle space where like we can exist and like gain understanding and like empathy for each other. So that's something I'm excited to like explore in this state, because Oregon feels a lot like the country. Like the country is not LA, the country is not New York City.
Yeah.
A lot of the country is rural, and just people, they just live in a different place. So it's been nice to like be reminded of that, and like not be so judgy, I guess.
I will say that I mean, you know, we haven't known each other too long, but I think that you are a little more open than most to put yourself in situations that might be a little unsettling or uncomfortable for the sake of like learning a lesson or transforming the way you move or think or believe. I think a lot of people are really content staying exactly where they are. And so it doesn't surprise me that you are like in Oregon being like, yeah, I'm just gonna meet people and it's gonna be great because maybe we'll make a documentary because I'm an artist, you know? Like I don't think that that's a very like common disposition, but I love that Oregon's delivering that for you.
Yeah, it's been exciting. I'm really excited. I mean, I'm gonna say like 2-year goal is I would love to start, if I'm still out there, some kind of residence. I just want people to be able to like pop out, have some time to just be in a different environment. Yeah, I really want to start a residency, and also like just a space to collaborate. I just want people. I want like my loved ones. I want to connect these, you know, these worlds being like New York, LA, with Corvallis from Oregon, because there's something in the air there. It's really exciting when Marion came. Very excited to hopefully have you soon, and I wanna just have a little bridge, because it's like a shuttle. EJ, the flight, it's so easy.
Yeah. Where are you flying to?
Eugene. Like,
how far is it to like? How long's the flight? How long's the drive from
here?
LA? Yeah.
So from Burbank to Eugene, you're on the plane for an hour and a half.
Not bad.
I think like door to door from like Marion's to my house in Corvallis, you're talking maybe, so Burbank Airport, 20 minutes. You know, maybe at the airport for like 2.5 hours total. Okay, so we're at 3 hours, 40-minute drive. So we're like under 4 hours, you can like fully door to door be there. The drive, probably like, let's look, I don't think it's that short of a drive.
Like 15 or something?
Let's look from here right now. It is 13 hours and 42 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. I know some people love a road trip because it's a beautiful drive. I mean, the Oregon coast is also like only, I think it's like an hour drive from where we live. So the coast is right there, but it's been cool. As has this. I feel like we can wrap this. This feels like we covered a lot.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you if there's anything you wanted to hit, but I also agree we've like.
Yeah, this has just been so nice and just casual enough, and we did some prep. We're getting to like experiment with shooting with these cameras. Had some fun conversations, some amazing wings,
Yeah, duh.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like really honored that once again you were down to chat
Yeah,
and
thank you.
down to hang out, and this is special.
It was cool. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, this is. Gotta get a hug.
For sure.
Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Marion.
Oh,
Okay.
my old man bones.
Been recording some stuff.
Yeah, I was reading a New York Times article about you and said,
About me?
I was like, whoa.